Okay, hello again. Long time since I did the last video. Haven't really had much to comment on. There's not been a lot going on really in the world of new cameras and things. And I haven't really done a lot of photography, so I don't want to keep making videos for the sake of it. There's no point trying to compete with a lot of other well-established YouTubers. So I'll just keep it as and when I find there's something relative to talk about. And of course now, something I spoke about before, as you know, I've had the Z50 for some time, and we now have the replacement. This isn't it. I have pre-ordered it, I will say. Been a lot of discussion about it. Is it a good upgrade? Is it not? Different opinions, which you get with every camera release that's ever happened. You will get people that say it's not enough, it's not good enough, this isn't right, that isn't right, blah, 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 blah. Oh, excuse me. Same drivel that you hear at every camera release, regardless of whether it's Nikon, Canon, whatever. Anyway, I thought I'd give my 2 pennies worth. They changed the screen. Firstly, do I think it's a good upgrade? Yes, I do. Here in the UK, it's £849. I mean, that's cheap for a camera nowadays. Even for an APS-C size sensor. That's still a cheap. It's still less than the RX10 Mark IV. Yeah. I mean, okay, you've got to buy lenses to go with this, but you can get a couple of lenses that are probably going to be the same amount of money, if not still less. So, and that's only got a 1-inch sensor. So, I don't. People seem to underestimate the capabilities of an APS-C sensor nowadays. I think it's because full frame has actually become, as time has gone on, you can actually afford older cameras now with full frame sensors. And I think for some people, apart from maybe Fuji users, it's become, but it's no less good than it was years ago. It's still a great sensor, so don't put down on it. So what are the changes? Well, to me, most of them are fairly small. It's apparently got a brighter, not a different viewfinder, but a brighter one. I'm not sure that's a big deal. The flippy out screen instead of this. I'm not that bothered either way. That doesn't, to me, that's not a deal breaker one way or another. I'm not a vlogger, as you know, so it really doesn't bother me. Again, it's a minor thing, and most of the differences are quite minor. It's slightly bigger. I think it's got a slightly bigger grip than this, which I think is nice, but it's not as big as the Z6. But it's slightly bigger than this overall. Some have said it's better built. I don't know. I don't know whether it's made of any different materials. But the big thing, as far as I'm concerned, is the AF system. Now, and some people are getting mistaken with this. Some people seem to think it's got the AF system of the z6iii, the z8 and the z9. It hasn't. There is a slight difference, and I'm not a technical, I'm not a camera engineer, and I would like to, I'm sure somebody will test the two together and see how much better these others are, but it isn't the same. Well, I mean, it is kind of the same, but I think because it's put into a smaller sensor, it doesn't work in quite, and it's not a stack sensor, it doesn't work quite as well, if that makes sense. I hope, and I think that's the reason. This is not a stack sensor, so it's not going to work as well as it will in the Z8 or the Z9. And even the Z6 III is only a partially stacked sensor, so correct me if I'm wrong on any of these. So it may not quite work. I don't know. I think that remains to be seen, how it compares to those cameras, until somebody tests it out. That will be interesting. But nevertheless, I think we will see a vast improvement over the Z50. Now, if you're shooting sports and wildlife, that is a major upgrade. And I think it will. Plus, it's got all the birds, the tracking of birds, airplanes, blah, blah, blah. All those are the same as the Z8 and the Z9. Whereas the Z6iii doesn't have bird tracking, which is a bit flabbergasting to me, to have put it into an £849 camera when they haven't put it in there. Not long ago was the Z6iii come out. It's less than a year, isn't it? It's a few months, and it's not in that camera. So I'm sure there's a lot of Z6iii owners that are not happy about that, and I wouldn't be. I would have to say, as somebody that is a bit, and it's kind of why I haven't gone for the Z6iii yet. I've been thinking about it, but I've not pulled the trigger on that. Because I'm not sure how often I would use that over the Z6. And I was kind of looking to this camera more for my bird photography rather than the full frame. I just, it just hates having to crop so much, and it gives me that, that's why. And I loved the image quality that come out of this, and the, the 55 to 250 or the 50 to 250. The image quality that comes out of Nikons are really fantastic. So yeah, I mean that is the big thing. I think for everything else, I think it's improved the video a little bit. But of course, the other big thing is no IBIS. Now, yeah, here we go. Is that a big thing? I think it all depends what you shoot. If you shoot wildlife, it's not really an issue. If you shoot sports, it's not an issue, because you're not going to need it. If you've got a really fast lens on it, you shouldn't really need it. You should, you just got to keep your shutter speeds up a bit. For video, that may be a bigger issue. I don't know. So, I mean, I think IBIS should have been put in it. I really do. But it's $8.49, and I think if you wanted these extra bits and pieces put into it, then I think you'd be looking at a £1,200, £1,300, £1,400 camera instead. So then people would be complaining about the price. Because if they had to put it up to, say, £1,100, because they'd put IBIS in it, and they'd put a new sensor in it, a 24 megapixel sensor, say, or something like that, then they probably would have had to put the price up to about £1,200. Then people would be saying, oh my God, it's £350 more than the Z50. So they can't win whatever they do. So I kind of sympathise with camera companies, because they're never going to please everybody in a million years anyway. So there you go. But I think the tracking is definitely going to be better. It's got the bird autofocus tracking, which is going to be great for wildlife and sports shooters. As I said, I think if you're a sports or wildlife shooter, then I think it's worth the upgrade just for the better autofocus. And I'm sure at some point somebody will compare the two, and I think you will see there's a big difference. I certainly hope so anyway. But we'll see. But I'm sure that will be the case. I'm pretty sure we will see a big difference in autofocus capabilities, and that's the main thing. But I think if you don't shoot either of those things, if you don't shoot fast action, then go and get a Z6. Go and get a ZF. I wouldn't bother with this camera if it didn't shoot sports or wildlife, personally. I don't see the point. Don't sit there whinging about this camera. I wouldn't get this camera. I've only got it because it gives me that bit of extra reach, and I don't want to have to crop all the time. And it's such a lightweight body. And this next one is still going to keep that lightweight, small, and I'll use it alongside a full frame camera rather than as opposed to. So, you know, this isn't my one and only camera, never will be. But if you are choosing a one and only camera, then I would look for something else. But as far as a replacement for the Z50, I think it's a worthy upgrade. Yes, it could have had more things, it could have been better, but I suspect they would have had to put the price up. And I think it's good enough. And, you know, I see some people saying, I'll wait for the next version. Well, you could be waiting another... This is 5 years after the Z50. So God knows how long you'll be waiting for version 3. You might be dead by then. So don't wait around for it. Either get it or get something else. Somebody was talking about Canon, and the R8 doesn't have any image stabilisation either. So if you're going to go down that route, you've got to decide not just about the camera, but the lenses you're going to put on it. Because Canon don't have an awful lot of telephoto lenses in R-mount. You've got to go back to their older mounts. If they're RF mounts, you've got the 100 to 500, which is an expensive lens. You've got a couple of cheaper versions, but they're like F11s, aren't they, or something ridiculous. I'm sorry, but that puts me right off. You know, I don't want to be shooting at F11. I mean, that seems a bit ridiculous. But, you know, so you've got to look at the lenses. And I said, like my Nikon, I've got my 500 PF. That's a good part of the reason that I stick with Nikon, because I love that lens. I can't replicate that lens with Sony, with Canon, with anyone else. Nobody else has a 500mm PF. I know Sigma have recently bought out a 500, which I could put on other systems, but that's going to be double the price of this lens, and it's not going to be... I'm not going to get twice the better image quality. I'm not. So you have to think about the lenses you're going to put on it, not just about the camera. And that's why I'm going to upgrade and get I've got it on pre-order from Wex Photography, so hopefully it'll be coming to me soon, and I will go over it with you then when it gets here. So this is going up for sale, the Z50. I will be replacing it. So there you go. There's my thoughts on it. Till the next one.